The X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and for the next 4 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern, right here on the Talkstar Radio Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, Star Cable, and our growing family of broadcast affiliates right across Canada. Canada, the United States, Central America, the Caribbean, South America, the Pacific Rim, Asia, India, Africa, and Europe. If you'd like to give us a call toll-free worldwide, 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone at xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv at hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. And I must tell you, X Zone Nation, that I am totally impressed with the number of downloads we've had from the 9/11 tribute at the X Chronicles newspaper. So far, in less than 1 week, we have had more than 163,000 downloads. So to each and every one of you who are reading it and telling your friends, and your friends are coming online and downloading and so on and so forth, thank you very much. This is what it's all about, getting the news out to you, the members of the X Zone Nation, so that you can spread it far and wide. My guest this hour is Stephen Hairfield, and we're going to be talking about Metaphysia 2012. Now, after being raised in a very dysfunctional family, Stephen entered the United States Army and found himself in Vietnam for 2 tours of duty. While there, he met his first teachers, the path of the Zen Buddhist monks, where he learned of intuitive insight. He began to learn their teachings and traditions and spent much time with them, as the military would allow. Upon returning to the U.S., he earned his undergraduate degree in the field of psychology, and upon graduation found himself with an urge to travel to India. Upon his arrival in India, he began the journey of his life after encountering 2 Tibetan monks who invited him to come and learn in northern India, where he spent 6 years studying the Tibetan Buddhist path. Now listen, X Zone Nation, while there, he had the opportunity not only to study in India, but also in Nepal and twice into Tibet, and had many experiences that could be termed as mystical, connecting with all of his past lives. Stephen is a certified intuitive by the Edgar Cayce Foundation, known as the ARE, Association for Research and Enlightenment, and they only select 200 people for a 7-year service. He has been interviewed on many radio stations and television stations across the U.S. and Canada. And this year, we're going to be talking, this segment, we're going to be talking about Metaphysia 2012. And we're going to be talking about, well, you know, that mystical date that's happening next year. I think it's 463 days from today, December the 21st, 2012. He is the author of A Metaphysical Interpretation of the Bible and 12 Sacred Principles of Karma. He has also many downloads available, like The Art of Manifesting, A Monk's Perspective, The Power of Thought, at his website at www.hairfield.com. That's www.hairfield.com. X Zone Nation, this hour, when we come back from this 2-minute commercial break, my guest is Stephen Hairfield, and we're going to be talking about Metaphysia 2012, as well as many interesting topics. And last time we had Stephen on the show, I believe, was going back to 2007. people were really amazed at the insight that he brought to the show and to the listeners about Tibetan monks. So we're going to touch on that as well. www.hairfield.com, that's HAIRFIELD.com is the website. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone, and we'll be back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine like hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining room can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you're visiting, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic Fellsmere, or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, old Florida cuisine at its best. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone broadcast network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
We all desire health, happiness, and fulfillment, but often get in our own way. Repeated patterns that leave us out of control can keep us feeling powerless, frustrated, and unable to move forward in spite of our best efforts. Unconscious patterning disconnects us from our gifts, often destroying the very thing we seek. But there is an answer. We can take charge of our destiny and heal the trauma of our history. Shamanism is an effective ancient modality that can reconnect us with our true selves, empower the creation of our dreams, and return us to health and balance. Cody Alexander is a certified shamanic practitioner and teacher with 11 years' experience. Email healingpathways33@gmail.com or visit codyalexander.net to schedule a long-distance shamanic session today.
Explanation, Stephen Hairfield is my guest to this hour. And Stephen, welcome back to the X-Zone. How have you been since you and I last talked, going way back to 2007?
Yeah, it's been a long time. I've been doing very well and gallivanting around the world talking about 2012 and what's going on out there.
Well, maybe you can enlighten us, Stephen. What is your perception of what is going to happen on December the 21st, 2012?
Well, for years, Rob, so many people from religion through Hollywood have always talked about the end of the world. That's not what the Maya have even ever talked about. It's basically, if you will, it's a transformation. And if I can, I'd like to share a Hopi prophecy with you. Is that all right?
Please do, sir.
When birds fall from the sky and the animals are dying, a new tribe of people shall come unto the earth from many colors, classes, and creeds, who by their very actions in nature and deeds shall make the earth green again. They will be known as the warriors of the rainbow. That right there says that the end of the world isn't going to happen. But what we can do is we can say there's going to be a transformation. And even if we look at the world today, that transformation has already begun. And that transformation is actually leading us to the idea of oneness. The only thing, Rob, that's going to end is the way that we do things now. I'd love to ask people this question, Rob. What out there in this world is actually working? Is the economies,
Nope.
The governments with
Nope.
an S, the business world,
Nope.
the religions? What out there is actually really working? It's kind of like what the universe has done. I don't know about the area where you live, but the area where I live, I've seen recently this year an exorbitant amount of fixing roads and highways. And my point is what used to take me about 10, 15 minutes to get to my office now takes me about 20 because of all the detour signs. So my point is simply this, that what the universe is doing is it's putting detour signs out there for us to follow a new direction. And thus far, we haven't done it very gracefully. So 2012 is not about the end of the world. You could say in a nutshell, it's about humankind awakening to their own inner divine nature.
You know, when people ask me what my perception is of 2012, I say that we are at the point in our evolution, both physically as well as spiritually, where we have been caterpillars. We are now at the point within the cocoon that we're getting ready to come out, and we're going to be transforming from the caterpillar into the butterfly. I believe it's our metamorphosis that is going to happen and bring us into a new age of spiritual enlightenment that is going to get us back on track with Mother Nature.
Absolutely. In fact, it brings to mind a psychiatrist and researcher, David Hawkins.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about the new species that's coming, and he calls them Homo spiritus. And what it is a perfect blend of flesh and spirit operating as a unified idea. We're going to move from the linear human into nonlinear. We're going to move from form into non-form, which is the perfect blend of being. And so many people today in our world have the tendency and propensity to fight against that. As you know, Rob, we as humans don't change with a whole lot of grace.
No.
We change through fighting and inner upheaval and inner turmoil, and it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, the Maya say that as far as December 21st, 2012 goes, is we have one of two paths only that we can take. One, the first, and we're witnessing it in the world right now, is we can go down the lower road in conflict. But the beauty of what's going on in the Middle East, which is what a lot of people miss, is we're seeing total strangers, individuals who never knew each other, banding together for a common cause to execute it even in the face of death. So my hat's off to those folks. But what we're seeing is the unification of human individuals as one operating idea. And we're seeing the idea of power and control going by the wayside. So we're seeing the initial phases and effects of the idea of 2012. The second path is simple, where we all band together and unify and work together as one idea. I was watching the news the other morning, Rob, and this guy in Logan, Utah, there was an accident, a motorcycle and a car, and the motorcycle was on fire, and the driver of the motorcycle had slid under the car. And all of these citizens, the public, got together. Rob, they lifted that car up. They got enough guys to lift it up. And another person pulled the individual out from under the car. And by the way, according to the news, he was in serious condition. He's now in stable condition, and he's going to live. So the unification of people can resolve the issue. And that's really the crux of what the Maya have been attempting to tell us for millennia now. Work together. We are one race, meaning human.
Mm-hmm.
But
so
we don't do that.
So why is it, Stephen, that people enjoy putting a doomsday spin on these kind of times instead of looking at it in a positive light that this is good, we are going to be working and living as one? They would rather say, this is the end of the world, the galactic alignment, we're in the end times as talked about in the book of Revelations in the Bible. And yet they refuse to take a positive spin. Are these people who are naturally negative, and could we say that they're the negative force that tries to bring the rest of us down?
You could indeed, and that's a great point, Rob. If anybody ever wants to read Revelation, and it's you have to understand it's metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
My suggestion is go to the very last chapter. Just skip the whole thing. Just go to the last chapter. And when you do, here's what you're going to read. That this idea of the Creator, is the way I'm going to say it, is going to come down and join us. And then what it's going to do is share the tree of knowledge with us. This is about stepping from a limited form of living into the dynamic of an infinite being. And to me, the only reason these organizations do this, Hollywood, they're doing it to make a buck. I watched a thing last night on Revelation and the end of the world, and I have to sit there and chuckle, because all it is an over-dramatization and a fear of the unknown. And when it comes to the unknown, in India they have a saying that any time you enter the unknown, simply enter it unknowingly. And these people that are doing all these things to human consciousness, it's something that's been going on for thousands of years. I mean, come on. Last May 23rd, I think it was, Christianity said the end of the world was on May 23rd. Then they went, oh, no, that's when it began, and what it's going to do is happen on October 31st. Well, it's still the terrorization of mind. If you don't have an end, then religion has no control. And it can't save you. And religion can't save you in this. So, to me, it's all a scam, and it's a fear.
But over the years, it certainly has become very evident that religion is being used by those at the top as a control mechanism for the masses. I look at religion, organized religion, as nothing more than another aspect of the world of corporations. For example, if we take the Vatican, you've got the Pope. Well, in my book, he is the CEO, and then you've got all the cardinals who are the members of the board of directors. And then you've got the people who go to church every Sunday, and they put whatever they can into the collection pot as their tithing as the shareholders. And when you look at the big picture, the corporation is not doing that good.
Well, I've sold my stock.
Did you profit or lose?
Oh no, I got out in time.
Good. Glad to hear that.
I have my being.
Excellent. So why is it that people will actually allow themselves to be led like sheep, even though in their heart of hearts all they want to do are be better people, believe that as a group and a community they can help make this a better world, when in fact many religious philosophies exactly do the opposite?
People are starting to wake up to that, and they're starting to realize that Christ himself made this statement. What he said was, a house divided cannot stand against itself. And when you really look at what goes on, and I'm not my intention to downplay religion whatsoever, it's just to get people to realize there's more to us than meets the eye. You cannot stop the divine nature of being, and that's for certain. But what Christianity has done, it's been their entire intention by creating division of heaven and hell, God and the devil. That's automatically division. So if the master himself says a house divided can't stand, I would rather go with that than I would believing in two things. That's like attempting to go north and south at the same time. It won't work.
Do you think that in today's society, religion really has a place?
No. Not at all.
Yeah. I think that religion, and I don't mean to offend anyone here, X-Zone Nation. I just believe in my heart of hearts that religion's day has passed because religion has not kept up with the spiritual growth or the emotional growth as well as the learning growth of the people.
No, they haven't. We were originally put on this planet to achieve a level of divine consciousness. If anything, religion has steered us away from it simply because if we achieve that state, they have absolutely no control. But we're seeing the signs of that grip being let go of, even if we go back into the Middle East, which is a very dogmatic, and I'm not downplaying Islam at all. It's just very dogmatic in its approach. And people are outgrowing that, just like they are with the idea of power and control. It's all connected. It's all about awakening to individual self. That's not talking about from an ego perspective, because that won't work. What it's talking about is the truth of the human being. and what we came here to accomplish, and that's divine consciousness.
All right.
We are seeing.
All right, Stephen, I have to put a hold on it here because I've got to take my news break at the bottom of the hour. X-Zone Nation, Stephen Hairfield is our special guest. We're talking about Metaphysia 2012. www.hairfield.com, and we'll be back on the other side of this news break with yours truly, Rob McConnell, in the X-Zone.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
There's a legend shared by many indigenous cultures of a time when the nations were cast to the four corners of the world. Each nation was given a body of sacred knowledge that held a different portion of the truth to preserve. True reality could not be known until all the nations reunited, combining the information. If a single one was missing, the world could not be reborn and darkness would prevail. The Science of Magic Radio is dedicated to reuniting the sacred knowledge. With the understanding, none of us has all the answers, but together we can open new perceptions and possibilities. Through our combined vision, the world can be reborn into a place where darkness no longer prevails. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic daily on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, or visit us at thescienceofmagic.net.
X-Zone Nation, Stephen Hairfield is my guest this hour. We're talking about Metaphysia 2012. His website is www.hairfield.com. Stephen, in your book, A Metaphysical Interpretation of the Bible, how has the Bible been, in your opinion, misinterpreted in its writing?
Pardon my chuckle. The biblical text, like all ancient prophecy and all ancient text, is written in a metaphorical manner. Metaphorical meaning that you cannot take it literalistically. And what religion has done is they pick and choose what's literal and what isn't. Every minister, priest, you name it, would agree with me that the biblical text is allegorical and not to be literally taken. That being said, one has to really understand the metaphorical language of ancient civilizations to actually be able to understand it. The biblical text itself, using the metaphor, is actually telling us how to become that Christ-like being which we're destined to become. That said, that means all of these centuries, they've been leading us away from it. Physical minds interpreting spiritual text will, generally speaking, never work. Once you strip all the dogma out of the message, you see the truth of the message. And I realized early on that the dogmatic language in the biblical text was human interpretation. That being said, once we understand once more the metaphor, we realize that there's a real message there with a tremendous level of substance to it. And when you read that, like the book of Revelation. It's all about what's going to happen to you as you approach your own divine being, and it has nothing to do with the world. And we know that in the very first chapter, when it talks about opening the 7 seals to the book of life. Those 7 happens to be 7 chakras. You have to enliven and awaken them to achieve the rest of it. And that I write about in that book, Metaphysical Interpretation. Here's how you do it. Here's what we're told. And I leave it up to the people. And I've gotten so many people from all over the world that have said, there's just one aha moment after another. I've had people tell me that they've become so filled with love of life and people that it's amazing. So, and it's all written right in the Bible.
Really?
Because I take it verse by verse and said, here's what the Bible says. Here's an interesting example. One of my hobbies, Rob, is I collect Bibles. My oldest is actually 1805, hand-delivered to me by a friend from Paris. And I love to sit down and take the older biblical text and the newer. When you get into Revelation, I don't remember the exact verse, but I could locate it. But here's what the newer Bibles say. Do not harm those that have the seal of God on their forehead. And in the older ones, every one of them that I have says this, do not harm those that have the seal of God in their forehead. So, and when they were putting the Bible together, they read it, and in modern times, in fact, in 1999, they said, that doesn't make sense. How can you have the seal of God in your forehead? So you have to have it on it, so everybody can see it. In your forehead happens to be the 6th chakra. So those with the intuitive sense and the higher ideas of being, they're awake. And that's the point. Be awake.
So if the Bible was to be rewritten today, let's say hypothetically the events that are written about in the Bible did not happen way back when in the time of the ancients, but happen today in our time, how different would the Bible be?
Oh, totally. Absolutely, totally different. But the first thing I would say to that, though, is whoever would come in and portray Christ today, you better be careful, because they're going to end up taking your life anyway. Yeah. We have to remember that Christ himself was not for churches. He was against them. And anybody reading the biblical text can see that. So if he were to come today and all Christianity says he's going to return and we're going to be saved, no, I mean, what does everybody do? You have a photograph of Christ in your pocket? You know what he's going to look like? No, nobody does. So how are you going to know whether or not it's actually him? You won't. So what are they going to do? Attempt to take him out one more time.
Or is the second coming of Christ like just something that was put into the Bible as a way to remind humanity and those who read the Scriptures that, hey, if you're a bad boy, wait until your father comes home tonight?
I love it. No, actually, when they talk about Christ returning, and even the idea of Antichrist, here's actually what we're being told. Antichrist is anti-higher inner divine being. The return of Christ is the awakening of the vast majority, if not all, and it's available to all humans. Means we awaken to our own Christ consciousness within, and that's how Christ is going to return within all of us as a divine awakening, which loops us right back to the idea of 2012. Nobody can stop that. It only depends on which path we take. One would be simple. One would be, let me say, intrinsically interesting to do. But you cannot stop, because even if you look at the idea of Revelation, it says the idea of Antichrist loses in the end. So my whole thing for years has always been, okay, bring him on, because it's not an individual like we all think it to be. Even if you look at the number of 666, you have to understand numerology to be able to understand what that means. 666 added up numerologically is just simply this. It's 18 or a 9, because you've got to reduce it to a single digit. 9 means end of cycle, and if it's an end of a cycle, it simply means new direction. So the beast means that the way we do things now will not be able to be done that way in the coming times. And to the religious mind, that's the beast. They lose their grip. They don't have it anymore, and they're no longer existent. Not that we would need them. Not that we need them now. We don't.
So is this a metaphor for each one of us taking back our own power and taking the power away from those who preach one out of one side of their mouth and do out of the other side?
Absolutely, and well stated. See, what the church has done, and we would have to go back in history, and I don't know if we have time for the show, but boy, I could walk you through this very easily. We give our power away constantly, and the idea of Christ consciousness would never do that. So they don't want us to stop giving them our power once more because they have no hold, no grip, and no authority over us. And here's the funny thing. They never have. But when you look at the path, you could have lost your property a long time ago. You could have lost your life. In fact, the very first man that, German, don't remember his name off the top of my head, they went to translate the Catholic Bible from Latin to German. He was actually burned at the stake, and all of his wealth was taken because he was a heretic. He was a heretic because he was telling the truth. And all he wanted to do was put the biblical text in his own language, and he gave up his life. And that's just a small example of what they did in those days.
In your studies over the years, how do you explain the Nephilim, or those who descended from the sky, the land of the giants? What are, angels? Are these all metaphors?
Yes, they are. What they're talking about, Nephilim, you could actually equate to the idea of the soul.
Okay.
The soul was just a form of energy. I once heard it said, in fact, by Edgar Casey, that the reason we come into physical being is, I mean this humorously, is because it's blunt force trauma when it comes to experience, which means we grow. We actually grow faster in physical form in the sense of wisdom and knowledge than we ever could as a soul. Here's what Casey actually said. What it takes the soul to learn and acquire in soul form only takes 2,500 years. Not that time is relevant to the soul. But what it can learn in one human lifetime would take it 2,500 years. So the Nephilim, us, decided to experience physical form so we could have infinite knowledge available to us. That's all it means.
So do we go from one existence in one part of the universe to another dimension, to another reality? What happens to us after we die?
Well, all we do, when a snake sheds its skin, or when that caterpillar, going back to the beginning of the show, goes into the chrysalis, it only gives up its form, but it doesn't die. A snake shedding the skin sheds the skin, but it's still living. And I can certainly share with everyone right now that when we leave this world, we're going to find ourselves still standing there, stepping into quantum physics for just one moment. A few years ago, about 6, quantum physics mathematically proved that it's not really a universe, it is a multiverse, with an infinite number of, quote, universes contained within that. So what we do, because we're on planet Earth here, and what we do when we transition, based on how we've lived our lives, we move into either up in vibration, or stay in the same vibration and return here, or we can go backward into an Earth we were in millennia ago. And all of that is mathematically verifiable. So we simply move from this Earth into another one, based on our performance, so to speak, here.
Would that explain how people have past life experiences and how they're able to relate past life histories when they undergo past life regression?
I would say yes to that, indeed. It's just experiencing your whole being. I remember on top of a monastery with this very specific meditation, which I teach people, that one day every one of my lives was opened up to me, and I saw them all. And frankly, they were all on this planet, as far as I could tell. Because if you move from one Earth to another, how are you going to notice the difference? And in that, what it did is it told me a story of my own soul evolution. So there's the real value of really knowing your past lives. When people go through past life regression through a hypnotist, they're giving up the control of that, and they're going to go along with what the hypnotist shares. I'm not saying that it's not a good idea. I believe it is if a person wants to know themselves. But it's something like the book of Revelation says, that once you open those 7 seals, you will know your book of life. And it's that simple. You, I, any human can open those seals and achieve who we have been throughout time. And I mean that very sincerely, throughout time. Our soul is eternal, Rob. It does not experience transition. We do.
What?
And we don't have to, by the way.
What do you think is going to happen come December the 22nd, 2012? What kind of changes do you think is going to happen?
In my own humorous way, we could wake up and not realize that anything happened, and here's why I say that. Those that don't achieve, look at 2012 as the idea of a graduation. And by the way, we should be more concerned about Octobers than we ever should Decembers. And if you want, we can even talk about that one.
Sure.
But the reason I say that is because the people that remain in the cycle of birth and death, they're not going to know it because they gave up their lives. The people that make the shift, or the graduation, so to speak, they may not know it because they just moved into a different dynamic. As silly as all of that may sound, we know that there are 3 civilizations that one day were here on this world and one day were not. The perfect example of that, Rob, is the Anasazi in Chaco Canyon in southeastern Arizona. When the archaeologists discovered their dwellings in Chaco Canyon, the first thing they said was it looked as though they were preparing their evening meal, and they never ate it. So my point is if you go from one energetic dynamic into another, why would you know there's a change? But I can certainly promise everyone this. If you're interested in a world of peace, infinite ability, a world of implicit acceptance, a world that exists with nothing but divine-natured people, then I'd be excited about what's coming. That's why the end times, I think, is a joke.
All right, we have to take our final break. But when we come back, I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about October, because you've got my interest up here, as I think you knew you would.
Thank you.
Stephen, it's great having you with us. We'll have to have you back on because this is a topic that I believe a lot of people want to hear about. But you know what? They say, I don't know, religion, the paranormal, metaphysics, it's like adding oil with vinegar. Well, yeah, it's true. And when you add oil and vinegar, you get a very, very tasty salad dressing, don't you? We'll be back. We'll be back on the other side of this break as my conversation with my guest this hour, Stephen Hairfield, continues. Exonation. If you'd like to find out more about Stephen, get his books. His website is www.hairfield.com. My name's Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
19 Sergeant Central. 19 Sergeant, check. Officers on the scene.
Hi, I'm Larry Lawson, host of Paranormal Stakeout. With over 36 years in law enforcement, I have learned a few things. The most important is the proper gathering and preservation of evidence is vital to putting the bad guy behind bars. It's no different in the world of paranormal investigation. Whether it's the search for the afterlife, cryptozoology, UFOs, and extraterrestrials, how we gather the evidence, preserve that evidence, and present it to a jury of our peers will make the ultimate difference in proving the existence of worlds and entities that are beyond our imagination. Join me, Larry Lawson, every week on Paranormal Stakeout when, along with my guests, we'll take a journey to prove with indisputable evidence what man has struggled to believe for centuries. Go to xzbn.net for the broadcast schedule and check me out at paranormalstakeout.com.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A Soul Balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today. www.soulbalancing.world.
Exonation, Stephen Hairfield is my guest this hour. His website is www.hairfield.com. And by the way, Exonation, if you're wondering if or how he can speak so strongly with authority, it's very simple. He's received his master's in religion and theology and a PhD in metaphysics. So there you go. You know, the guy's paid his dues, and all Stephen is doing is saying, hey, this is the truth. In fact, during the commercial break, you and I were talking about October the 21st, 2012. And if you could, share with our audience the significance of that date.
Well, October 21st, 2012, it's my sense, and I've also been a fan and studying ancient prophecy for about 35 years, and what I did was started connecting the different dots, the common threads between all of them. December 21st, 2012 is when everything should begin reaching a peak. Actually, it's before that, but that would be the strongest peak. So imagine a mountain, and on December the 20th that you're climbing, and on October 21st, 2012, you are now at the peak of your climb, which means between October 21st, 2012, and December 21st, 2012, we're making our descent, if you will, or even we are actually descending into ourselves to become the divine creatures that I'm not alone in saying, because I could quote many other people on that subject. And when December 21st, 2012 hits, breathe easy, because you made it. It's getting between. It's actually from now until December 21st, or October 21st is what I should say. And then everything is going to reach that crescendo in and around that date, and then it all starts calming down. In fact, there will be a wonderful signal according to the Hopi. It's the legend of the blue sun. When we look up in the sky and we see a sun with a blue tint to it, then that's letting us know we are now going to start receiving healing energy from the universe. And that should appear in October. But as we know, it takes that energy stream, let's just say a few moments to get here. So that's why I say that. And if you remember the Hopi prophecy that I began the show with, that's actually been happening. And by the way, that prophecy was actually stated over 800 years ago.
My heavens.
So if they can make that statement 800 years ago, and we all remember all the birds falling out of the sky with no clue, the animals dying with no clue, that has been happening over the last year and a half. So that's what's leading us up. So it's between this October and next October. The thing I would suggest, keep your eyes on Mother Nature. She's our messenger. When I say she's our messenger, she's attempting to let us know. Just simply watch her. As I shared with you, Rob, on break, we just had a tropical storm do something that is absolutely unheard of. And that's a tropical storm formed right on land. Its name was Tropical Storm Lee, and look what it did. Unheard of.
Stephen, I want to thank you so much. We've run out of time for tonight. You and I will be in contact. We'll have to have you back on in the very near future to continue this very interesting conversation. Thank you for sharing, and continued success.
Thank you, sir.
Take care now.
Pleasure.
Exonation, Stephen Hairfield has been my guest. www.hairfield.com, and we'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue here in the X Zone from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.